What's up, everybody? This is John Raymond coming to you from the workshop, and I thought today that we would do a follow-up video to something that we did a little bit ago on modes, and I was essentially giving a really easy, simple exercise for how to work on playing your modes and how to think about them that I think can be very effective. And that's all great, but I think we need to go a step further to figure out how we actually apply these things in real time and how you can apply them and work on them in the practice room. So that's what we're going to get into in this video. So I think the first step is when you work on these modes, besides playing them from one note like we talked about in the previous video, what's really important is you have to know what chords these scales go with and what chords these modes go with. If you just know the names of the modes and can play them, that actually does you no good because you have no contextual reference for how to actually apply it or when to apply it when you see a chord change in a song, right? So first things first is you gotta know the chords that these modes go with. And what I've done with this video, like the other one, is attached a PDF that you can find all of the major and melodic minor modes and the chords that go with those modes to at least help you with that, right? Now, when you define the mode and the chord that you're working on, right, what I would recommend is playing the chord on piano or some way where you can actually hear the sound of that chord while you play the scale, right? That'll help connect your ear to the sound of the chord that you're playing with the scale that you're working on, right? So I'm going to demonstrate this by using a Lydian dominant scale, and we're going to do B flat 7 sharp 11 will be our chord for this. So you'll hear the chord underneath, and then I'm going to play the scale up and down. What you also should work on, in addition to just playing the scale over the chord, is practice the arpeggio of the chord as well. So in this instance, right, we've got root, third, fifth, flat 7, ninth, sharp 11, and we can even add the 13th to the chord to really do it over the full range of the instrument, right? So that'll sound something like this. All right, so you're off to a great start. Now you're practicing the mode and associating it with the chord that it goes with most frequently. What we want to do next is start to expand what we are doing over this chord, right? So instead of just playing the scale up and down, what I'd recommend here is just work on some simple scale patterns, just to give you just the beginnings of some vocabulary and some linear information as you're playing over these chords that can help you sound more fluid on them. Right? So this could be anything from a scale in thirds or fourths to playing a simple like 1-3-2-1 pattern or a 1-3-5, a little more arpeggiated pattern through the scale, up and down, full range of your instrument while you're playing over the chord. So I'll demonstrate this again using that Lydian dominant scale over the B flat 7 sharp 11 chord, and I'll use the 1-3-5 shape that I mentioned and play up and down the instrument and start to get a little more fluidity. So by doing some of these scale patterns, you should already start to experience a little more freedom happening over this sound while you're playing over the chord, right? The next step, and the last step that we'll talk about today, is really we want to start to expand this beyond playing things that are rote, right, like a specific scale pattern, to starting to improvise, right? And the key here is you have to go with your ear and what sounds good, right? And part of this is that we have to be informed by recordings. We have to hear this sound in context, hear other people do it, so we have some ideas of what some vocabulary would be that can work over these chords. That's an important step here for sure. But even as you begin to improvise over this chord yourself, you have to connect with it orally more than thinking about what you're doing from an intellectual standpoint. And what you'll realize as you begin to improvise more and more over the chord that you're working on is that oftentimes the things that sound most melodic and the things honestly that sound the best really aren't coming from an intellectual standpoint at all. And especially in this case, they're not really coming from starting this idea on the root of the scale, for example, right? And the chord that we're working on in this video, the B flat 7 sharp 11, it's a great example. Because if you start that from B flat, it has a way different connotation and feeling as opposed to if you start that scale from F per se, or even from C, right? So I'm going to demonstrate that here for just a second. I'm going to play the scale starting on B flat and improvise some ideas over that, then play it on F, and then play it on C. And you can start to hear the differences based on where I'm kind of orienting myself in the sound. So again, the goal here is to start to hear and develop the ability to play things that sound good on these chords. Don't think about this from an intellectual standpoint, right? That was just to get you started, to figure out what the mode was, what notes in the scale make up that mode, what chord it goes with, etc. But you're past that now because you've worked on these things. So now we have to dig into our ear, dig into the things that we're hearing from recordings, and let that be the basis for how we're improvising over these kinds of chords. So I hope all this can be helpful for you as you continue to practice those modes on your own. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions, and we'll see you guys next time.